the restless dead could arise again, filled with hatred, vengeance, and a supernatural hunger. Today I'm talking about Revenants, terrifying undead spirits from the Vaesen RPG, a game steeped in Scandinavian folklore and gothic horror. Revenants are the undead remnants of a vengeful soul, driven by an insatiable need to torment and destroy the living. Often tied to those they knew in life, they are spirits of wrath and suffering, and they often linger in places near their death. But they're not just ghosts. They have physical forms, they can kill, and they can also be very difficult to stop. Revenants are usually invisible, stalking their prey from the shadows. But when they do take form, it's the stuff of nightmares. They have gaunt, skeletal figures with unnaturally sharp teeth and claws. Some are enormous, standing several meters tall, and their bodies black as night. Their eyes burn with malice. They lurk in trees, piles of rocks, or ruins, usually close to the place they died. Revenants can shift between spectral and physical forms, making them unpredictable and deadly. In the world of Vaesen, revenants are born from unresolved hatred, vengeance, or extreme suffering. Their origins vary, so some were victims of betrayal, murder, or mistreatment in life. Others are bound by curses or dark magic. Some revenants were not properly buried, and their remains were left to rot in unholy places. One particularly gruesome aspect of the revenants, if their body is destroyed, they can persist by inhabiting the body of the living, turning innocent people into vessels of horror. The concept of the revenant comes from real-world Scandinavian folklore. In Nordic legends, the dragar was an undead being that rose from its grave to wreak havoc. In medieval accounts, they describe walking corpses, terrorizing villages until their bodies were exhumed and burned. Many revenant myths are linked to improper burials, a belief shared across multiple cultures. And similar creatures appear in other folklore. So the English revenant stories of the Middle Ages are where dead men return to seek revenge. There are Slavic vampires, which, like revenants, were often former humans denied a proper burial. The next one I'm definitely not going to pronounce right. It's the Naxir, a Germanic folklore which rose from the grave to kill its family. Revenants in Vaesen take these old legends and infuse them with the RPG's eerie atmosphere, making them really terrifying and a fitting monster for the RPG. So what does a revenant actually do? They are vengeful spirits, often targeting those they hated or feared in life. They linger near the place of their death, hiding during daylight and emerging during night. They can drain the life from victims through a terrifying ability called ghost pressing. Some consume human flesh, making them even more grotesque than a traditional specter. If they are unable to return to their lair before sunrise, they become daystanders, which is like a motionless, invisible spirit that radiates a really horrifying presence. Plus, if you accidentally bump into a daystander, it can cause a human to have a stroke. Unlike some other undead revenants have intelligence, they are not mindless zombies. They plot, they scheme, and they know how to strike where it hurts. In Vaesen, the Revenant is a powerful and terrifying undead creature with a mix of supernatural and physical prowess. Some of their key stats and traits: they have might of 9, body control of 9, magic of 9, and manipulation of 8. So it makes a really strong, agile, and magical opponent. What's particularly scary about these creatures is they're super fast and elusive. It has an extra fast action that can be used for movement only. They can fly and move at high speed. They can pass through tiny spaces like door gaps and keyholes. Like, the more I read about this creature, the more terrifying it gets. They have deadly attacks, so revenants can claw, bite, and ghost press victims, which essentially just sucks the life out of people slowly throughout turns. In addition, they have weakness detection. They have an uncanny ability to sense people's fears, weaknesses, and shameful secrets, which means these creatures are capable of not just physical horror, but also psychological horror. Okay, so we've established that these creatures are pretty terrifying, so how do you actually take care of them? Well, destroying a revenant isn't as simple as hacking it to pieces. These creatures are bound by deep supernatural forces, and only specific rituals can truly put them to rest in Vaesen. So revenants can be temporarily driven off, but they always return unless they're properly banished. Here's how to get rid of one for good. First, you have to find its remains. The revenant is tied to its physical body. If its corpse is missing, buried properly, or left unmarked, it must be found before any banishing can begin. Then you exhume the body. If the revenant was buried, the body must be dug up. If it was not buried at all, then this step can be skipped. Number 3 is carrying the corpse across holy ground. So the remains must be taken across a graveyard wall 3 times, not through a gate, ensuring the revenant's connection to the mortal world is severed. Step 4 is to rebury in consecrated earth. The body must be placed in sacred ground with a cross on the casket to prevent further resurrection. If you're in a situation where proper burial is not an option, then you have an alternative route, which is to burn the body. Additionally, revenants cannot cross Christian symbols painted with tar, and they cannot harm those wearing a cross around their neck, though they can use magic to manipulate victims into removing such protections. Without performing these steps, the revenant will continue its haunt, returning night after night, growing more vengeful with each encounter. The revenant has several themes I think is fun to explore if you're GMing. So first, unfinished business. They are souls who cannot rest. It highlights the themes of justice, revenge, and past haunting the present. We also have an emphasis on burial rites and sacred traditions. Their existence reflects real-world fears about improper burials and the importance of honoring the dead. The weight of guilt and trauma is also present. Revenants are often tied to specific individuals or places, acting as manifestations of regret or wrongdoing. In a Vaesen session, a revenant isn't just a monster, it's a story waiting to unfold about this person. Who was this spirit in life? What caused its suffering? And can it be stopped without making things worse? Revenants can fit into a Vaesen session in multiple ways, so it could be a recurring nightmare, a revenant haunting a particular town, killing one person each night. It could be a tragic figure, a spirit tied to a mystery that must be unraveled before it can rest. Or perhaps a personal horror, a revenant that specifically targets one player tied to their past. Maybe it's a moral dilemma. Destroying a revenant is difficult. Do the players try to help it pass on, or do they take more drastic measures? Their presence reinforces the Vaesen's world's dark tone, blending with horror and folklore in a way that makes them feel ancient and inescapable. Some specific session ideas would be a revenant that stalks a small village, hunting a specific bloodline, or a group of scholars accidentally awakening a revenant after uncovering a long-lost grave. A revenant possessing a beloved NPC, forcing the players to find a way to exorcise it before it's too late. So for game masters, build suspense, let the players feel the revenant's presence before they ever see it. Use their intelligence. Revenants are not mindless and they will exploit the player weaknesses, so make sure you really lean into that. And create investigative mysteries. The best way to stop a revenant is often uncovering its story. For players, learn its history. Finding out who the revenant was in life may reveal how to defeat it. Make sure to use those protective symbols. Certain religious or magical barriers can stop them. And be ready to run. Finding a revenant directly is rarely a good idea. So the revenant is one of Vaesen's most terrifying creatures, a relentless, vengeful spirit that brings both psychological and physical horror to any session. Whether as a tragic figure or a ruthless killer, it's a monster that lingers long after the session ends. Have you faced a revenant in Vaesen or used one in your own RPG horror games? Share your experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And if you like this type of video, check out the one that I did on the Will-o'-the-Wisps. Until next time, watch where you walk at night. You never know what might be following you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.